Born with half a body.
With his level of amputation, he certainly could be about 1 in a million.
And an incredible talent. Thousands of seizures every day.
It was a big decision to make, to have half of her brain removed.
A radical treatment could save this baby. Growing lesions that make even breathing difficult.
I just felt like she wasn't going to make it.
A life without pain.
We were scared. We didn't know what to expect.
But it's a life full of danger.
What happens if she gets appendicitis? How would we know?
Choosing to confront pain.
You know, they pull you up and it's a lot of stress, a lot of tension. You feel it all.
A medical marvel or madness. And a flesh-decaying wound.
They said it's so bad that the gangrene has set in. We may have to amputate your foot.
The mystery of the cruel spider bite. The most incredible species on the planet is human.
Yeah, don't forget about Saturday.
No, I won't.
It's actually a lot of my friends.
16-year-old Trayvon Jennifer was born with half a body. His torso ends at his hips. It's an incredibly rare birth deformity.
With his level of amputation, he certainly could be about 1 in a million.
And doctors really don't know why I was born this way, but they call it amputation is when you're missing a limb or two from your body.
Doctors aren't sure why it happened to Trayvon. It's a mystery to his mom.
It was a real shock to me, because I did everything he said to do, but at the end, this is what I got and this is what I'm taking care of.
There are any number of reasons why babies can be born without limbs. Some are caused by genetic mutations, but Trayvon's condition is probably due to a rare accident in the womb.
Probably the most common reason would be an amniotic band disruption, also known as Streeter's dysplasia. And this is thought to be due to a premature rupture of the amniotic band while a child is in utero. And then this band can constrict an area of the limb, either the arm or the leg, and results in either just a soft tissue loss or a complete amputation of the extremity.
The circulation in Trayvon's legs was probably cut off by the slipped amniotic band. His legs were the only part of his body affected, and that's some good news for Trayvon.
Given that he is a perfectly healthy young man otherwise, and is only missing his legs, the chances of him passing it on to his children is relatively slim.
Whatever the cause, Trayvon learned to live with his difference. Right from the start, he was a mobile kid. It's one of the positives of being born with such a condition rather than losing his legs later. Trayvon has never had to relearn anything. He just does what comes naturally. But that doesn't include using prosthetic legs.
I don't like them because they're not a part of me either. It's just, I don't know, it feels weird. They're uncomfortable because I've been growing a lot and gaining weight, and the bucket was made at a certain size and it doesn't change. So that means when I get bigger, it gets tighter when I get in.
Facing life with half a body could be a devastating blow, but right from the start, Trayvon has been determined to keep up with the other kids.
I mean, if there's something I can't do, I'll just keep on doing it until I achieve my goal, I guess I should say.
Later, Trayvon finds that not only can he play sports without legs, it might even be an advantage. She seemed a perfectly healthy newborn baby. Nobody guessed she had a brain condition that could kill her.
Daddy. We just came home thinking that we were just new parents and nothing to worry about.
Hannah Miklik was doing everything right.
No feeding issues. She took to the breast right away. So everything was going quite well.
But in a few weeks, her mom started noticing strange behaviors. Hannah had what looked like a repetitive twitch on the left side of her body.
She would kind of roll her eyes to the side and shrug over and over and over again. And I didn't think it was right.
Hannah was sent for a brain scan. The results weren't good. Her parents were devastated.
And we got a call from our doctor, and he said, I think you should come in. And I fell to the floor. I knew something was really wrong.
More tests confirmed their worst fears. Hannah's twitches were in fact constant seizures. A serious brain condition was firing her muscles out of control.
She really couldn't do anything. She couldn't hold her head up. She couldn't even look at you. She didn't really look right at you. She looked through you.
You know, that's when the roller coaster ride really began, trying to get the proper help for her.
They tried every drug known to stop the seizures, but nothing worked. Hannah's seizures were lasting longer, and they were more frequent.
And we went into the hospital because she was in a constant seizure. She was status. That means you're just constantly seizing.
You're not coming out of your seizure.
Hannah was diagnosed with Aicardi syndrome. It's a rare disorder that only affects girls, and there are only 500 known cases worldwide. The right hemisphere of Hannah's brain was malformed. It was firing off too many electrical impulses. It was like a fierce electrical storm in her brain. That was disrupting the perfectly good left side of her brain. The seizures it was causing would destroy her life.
That part of the brain didn't develop properly. All it could do was to fire and cause the seizures. And so it would have impaired everything that goes into being a normal child.
At just 9 months old, doctors proposed radical brain surgery. The only way to stop the seizures was to disconnect the two sides of Hannah's brain. The neurosurgeon's news was heartbreaking.
She suggested a hemispherectomy, and that's a disconnection of the hemisphere of that brain, so the brain waves cannot travel and disrupt the good left hemisphere.
Her seizures were so severe, and her health was deteriorating so rapidly that it was almost a desperate attempt to stop them.
There was no choice. The surgeons went to work. It was a risky and long surgery. They hoped to unwire the parts of her brain that were causing the seizures.
The doctors really, they can't tell you where Hannah's going or what's gonna happen with her. You know, as one of the neurologists said, we're in uncharted territory here. So, you know, hold on to your seat and we'll see, you know, how things go.
Later, little Hannah responds to treatment, but surgeons propose an even more radical approach. Trayvon Jennifer was born without legs. His body just ends at the hips. It was probably caused by the amniotic band cutting off circulation in the womb. Whatever the cause, it hasn't held Trayvon back. From an early age, Trayvon learned to walk on his hands. He's had to build up incredible upper body strength.
I had to walk on my hands when I was little so I wouldn't mess up my clothes. So doing the handstand and walking around was pretty hard to do.
As Trayvon grew, he developed an interest in sports, but his choices were limited by his condition.
knee goes in between his feet. Right here, not this far, not this far away, here.
Trayvon's stepdad, Eric, first suggested he give wrestling a go. Like everyone else, he's amazed at how quickly Trayvon took to it.
Yes, yes, just like that. That's perfect, perfect.
So he went up to Coach Green and told him, I'm going to be on your team. And after that, he fell in love with the sport after he got into it.
But Coach Green had never taught anyone with no legs to wrestle before, and at first, he had his doubts.
To tell you the truth, I didn't know how successful he would be. You know, being part of the team, or when you're first meeting him, you're thinking, hey, that's great for the kid, great for, you know, the people around him, things of that sort. But how much he could actually compete in the sport, I wasn't really sure of it.
When I went there, I was like, okay, they're gonna hurt my child. But after I seen how the sport was and he loved it and that's something he wants to do, and then I just put all the fear in the back and let him do what he gotta do.
I'm trying to win.
But Coach Green was in for a real surprise. Trayvon soon showed him and the rest of the team he was a force to be reckoned with. What he lacks in leg power, he more than makes up for in guts and determination.
He definitely is a highly valued member. He's outstanding. I mean, one to look to and say, hey, if he can do it, I can do it. There can't be too many excuses in my room when I got a guy with a half a body doing everything and more.
But he keeps on pushing and trying to figure out the moves that he has to do to adapt to what other people are doing. Because all the moves are considered with legs. So he has to do it and try to say, okay, I'm gonna do this move, but I gotta do it without legs. So he's right up top.
Trayvon has perfected all new ways to win without his legs. In his first year on the team, he had an 8-7 win-lose record.
The first time he won a match, I jumped up, the school jumped up. When he came off the mat, his teammates grabbed him and spun him around. It was a nice night that night.
Everyone who knows Trayvon admires his courage and determination. But even more so, they love what's in his heart.
Everyone around the neighborhood thinks that he's a good guy and they like to be friends with him, and he's a ladies' man too.
If you don't like Trayvon, you better look in the mirror because something's wrong. I mean, he gets along with everybody. He's a great kid.
His heart. Amazed me about him is his heart. His heart is open up to everybody.
Life's not been easy for Trayvon, but he's never asked for special treatment. He just wants to be one of the guys.
I'm just a normal person, and I don't want people to treat me different or to feel sorry for me. I'm just a normal person trying to make it in life.
Tishona Garnes came into this world with a rare and frightening disorder.
Just really felt at that time, you know, that she wasn't gonna, I just felt like she wasn't gonna make it. I really didn't understand what it was.
It would soon cause her face to be deformed and leave her bones extremely soft. The outlook was bleak.
They told me that that her bones, they told me that she would never walk. They told me that Tishona would never talk, that she would not be a normal child. And that's basically it. We didn't have anything to go on or to look forward to.
Tishona has McCune-Albright syndrome. It's caused by a genetic mutation. One of the symptoms is abnormal fibrous growths on the bones.
The bones grow so rapidly that they're closing off their airway.
Even though she has difficulty breathing, Tishona has made incredible progress. Defying doctors, she did learn to walk, but her bones just kept on breaking. Now she has to use a wheelchair.
Tishona's broken her left femur approximately 14 times. She's broke the right femur 8 times. She's broke her right hip 3 times, and she's also broken her neck. So she's very, very fragile. The way they explained it to me was her bones was just a little bit harder than Jell-O, so, which is not hard at all.
Every time she breaks her leg, Tishona has to spend 8 weeks in a full-body cast. It's extremely uncomfortable, but every time, she bounces back.
She never, ever complains about pain. She always have a smile on her face. So that has given me the strength to hold back the tears and to just live, because I don't know why she was given to me. I don't know why, but I have to do the right thing by her.
The hardest thing for Tishona has been the emotional pain. She gets teased dreadfully, but she wouldn't miss a day at school for anything.
The most important words are listen.
They made fun of her. They called her E.T. They called her club palate, deformed, elephant girl, all of those things. And just for us to walk down the street and to hear these cruel things said to us, I will always turn to both my daughters, Tishona and Tanisha, and I would say to them, you know, let it go in one ear and out the other.
By age 14, the lesions in her mouth were getting dangerously large. She was having trouble eating, and worse still, her breathing was getting more difficult. It looked like Tishona may not make it.
So it was very heartbreaking to see her mouth get larger and larger, and to watch her not be able to eat, and it was just very difficult for her to swallow, very difficult for her to breathe.
Fortunately, doctors at Duke University Hospital agreed to operate. They would try to remove the fibrous growths. It was going to be a complicated surgery. But Tishona wasn't scared. On the day of her operation, she was up early getting ready. She knew it was going to be painful, but the hope of a better life was everything.
Take the screw out again.
The surgeons found a baseball-size obstruction had almost closed off her whole mouth. They were amazed Tishona had been able to eat. They also removed growths from her jaw, cheekbone, and eye socket.
Okay, it's in the corner. Okay.
I looked and I seen it was all right because I had stitches and stuff in my mouth. So it looked much better than what I looked before.
She cried because she didn't think that she was pretty. And so she says now maybe she can get a boyfriend. So yeah, she's really excited about the way she looks now.
I look good. Yeah.
Nisha, what are your plans for today?
The surgery did much more than improve Tishona's looks. She can breathe easier, and she's got much better use of her mouth.
Get everything done.
Eating food is doing a lot better than what I used to eat before.
Younger sister Tanisha has been there every step of the way. They have a special relationship.
She does everything for her sister. Whatever Tishona asks Tanisha to do, she does it. These two, they're one in a million, because you can't, if one goes, the other one has to go. They're inseparable.
But Tishona's next goal is to one day be well enough to go it alone.
I wish that I could go places by myself, not always go with my sister, because I know that she wants to go places by herself at times.
Unfortunately, her battle is not over. Tishona's fibrous lesions are growing back. The doctors warned them this might happen. It's going to mean more surgery. There's just no cure for this cruel disease.
Whatever Tishona decides, if she wants to have more operations, then I'm for it. I'm behind her. We're gonna do whatever it takes to get her well,
Hannah Miklik was born with Aicardi syndrome. It's a condition that's left her with terrible seizures. The right side of her brain was firing off too many electrical signals. So surgeons are trying to disconnect the wiring to stop the seizures. The results were incredible. When Hannah woke up, she was a different little girl.
She actually smiled for the very first time in the hospital. After 9 months of doing absolutely nothing, we actually saw our daughter come to life.
Right. It was almost like she was brought back from the dead.
Like she was reborn. She was definitely reborn that day.
But hopes for Hannah's new life were quickly shattered. As the surgeons predicted might happen, the seizures returned.
They did tell us that to begin with, but we tried to take a conservative route and leave the tissue in. But obviously, there was still some connections going on, and she was started having some more seizures.
That brought the Micklicks to Baltimore's Johns Hopkins Hospital. They came to see if leading neurologist Dr. Freeman could help them.
They didn't take out all of the bad brain, and so she continued to have seizures, and that's when the Micklicks came down to see us.
Dr. Freeman laid it on the line. There was only one way to stop the seizures. They would have to remove the whole right side of little Hannah's brain.
Without any surgery, I think Hannah would probably be dead. If not dead, she would have been severely impaired intellectually. She would have made no development, and she would have had thousands of seizures a day.
But Dr. Freeman knew his proposal was radical. He would have to convince Hannah's parents that this was the right course.
They say, you're not going to do that to my child. And what we tell them, the Micklicks and other parents, is that they're continuing to have these terrible seizures, that the future is very bleak in children with other kinds of conditions other than Hannah's. They will get paralyzed on that side, they will have seizures, they will be retarded, and that their best hope for a reasonable future is to take out half of the brain.
We figured this would be the only thing that would ever help her, would be the surgeries.
It was a big decision to make, to have your daughter's half of her brain removed, but at the same sense, it was like her only chance.
Once more, Hannah's head was opened up. It was going to be a very long and harrowing surgery. It would take up to 10 hours to remove the rest of Hannah's right brain.
What you do is you lay back the scalp and the skull on the side, and then you have the brain right in front of you. And he gradually takes out first the front part and the middle part and the back part, taking it all out on the one side.
This was Hannah's last hope. There was nothing more doctors could do if this surgery didn't work. When Hannah awoke, the outcome was obvious.
Said, oh my God, I said, I think something good has happened here, you know.
It was a miracle. It was definitely a miracle.
The surgery had worked. Hannah was bright and alert. Her seizures had completely stopped. But would she be able to function normally with half a brain?
This was about 4 months, 5 months after her surgery. This is the right side of Hannah's brain, and you could tell by the darkened images that there's no brain tissue there.
You have all these questions about what's going to happen when there's no brain there.
Luckily, the human brain is an amazing creation.
It's more than amazing, it's dumbfounding. These children all walk, they all run. Some of them tap dance, they play soccer. They all are normal, or some of them are of normal intelligence, and Hannah's very close to normal intelligence.
We never thought she would be able to kick a ball or throw a ball or say her ABCs or sing with her sister. And we're seeing that now, so that's awesome.
Hannah's left brain slowly learned to take over the functions of her missing right side. Doctors only perform this operation on children. Only when you're young can your brain adapt like this. Hannah can now do most things other 5-year-olds can. But she has her limitations.
She's behind her classmates, but she still takes part in a regular day of classes and activities for her age group.
Pre-surgery, Hannah was a floppy mess who was seizing all the time. Post-surgery, Hannah is an adorable young lady. She is walking around, she is running, she is active, she is verbal, she's doing very, very nicely.
Hannah's biggest physical handicap is her left hand. That's because the right side of the brain controls the left side of your body. And the hand is a very complex instrument, too complex for the other side of the brain to take over and operate.
They learn to walk because that's a more basic function and it becomes almost automatic. But they don't have the sensation in their hand, so they don't know where their hand is in space. They can't, in most cases, move the fingers or grasp things. So the left hand, in Hannah's case, becomes a helper hand.
It's been a long journey for the Micklicks to accept Hannah's condition and its radical treatment. But they are sure they made the right decision.
I told myself, you know, if Hannah could ever, you know, say hello and kiss me, you know, I'd give the world for that.
Yeah, I don't think Hannah would be here if it wasn't for the surgeries right now. She was too sick. But now that she's here for a reason, and we see those reasons every day.
Give me a kiss. Give Mommy a kiss. Thank you.
An Australian mystery, the white-tailed spider. Confirmed killer or a bad case of arachnophobia.
There are a couple of instances in the coronial files linking so-called white-tailed spider bites with fatalities.
At the time I was bitten, there wasn't a lot known about white-tailed spiders.
2 little fang marks full of venom can drive you to almost killing yourself.
It was in her garden that Helen Midgley first encountered the white-tailed spider.
There were pumpkin leaves in the way, so I plunged my leg in amongst the pumpkin leaves and I felt this almighty sting.
She'd been bitten by something.
But when I parted the leaves, there was the spider. It had fallen off my ankle because the leaves had moved, and I squashed it. It was a whitetail. I tried to treat it for 2 weeks, and it wasn't getting any better. It was getting worse, and I thought, this is ridiculous. I'd better go and see the doctor.
By then, the bite mark on Helen's lower left leg had developed into an ulcer, and the pain had become unbearable.
Well, I was totally terrified by then because it was like it was on fire. It felt like someone was pouring a boiling hot kettle on it 24 hours a day.
Her doctor took one look at Helen's leg and told her the wound had become gangrenous. Her flesh had started to die.
They sent me to theatre and they said it's so bad that the gangrene has set in. We may have to amputate your foot. I woke up in recovery and saw the nurse and I just said to her, have I still got my foot? And she said, yes. Well, I just cried and cried and cried and I couldn't stop crying.
Surgeons had to cut away the dead tissue and cover the area with a skin graft.
And I took one look at myself in the mirror and I thought, God, a spider did this, you know? A little spider can cause all this trouble.
Well, white-tailed spiders are found throughout Australia. It's a general term that we use to describe a whole lot of spiders.
There are more than 100 species of white-tailed spider. The mystery is whether one of them causes these horrible wounds.
We don't know that much about them because there are very few spider experts studying this type of spider, and they're only found here in Australia.
The most feared spider in Australia is the funnel web, and it's one of the world's deadliest. Second on the list is a large group of spiders which, while giving you a nasty and painful bite, probably won't kill you. The experts place the white-tailed spider in a third category.
That third group of spiders is where we don't know that much about their venoms. I guess the consensus about the kinds of injuries that had been attributed historically to white-tailed spiders is of a relatively superficial blister that developed within the first 4 days or so after possible contact with a spider.
But for an unlucky few, the problems are much more serious.
I haven't been able to wear shoes for 16 years because my left foot changes so many sizes in the course of a day.
Maria Austin's life went downhill the day she was bitten by a spider.
And the next morning when I woke up, my leg was a reddish purple, my left leg, from just below the knee down to the toes. 24 hours later, I was in the back of an ambulance on my way to hospital because it just wasn't getting any better. They didn't know what it was in the hospital either. It was at least 8 days before they told me it was most likely a white-tailed spider bite.
Fortunately, she didn't need surgery, but Maria believes the spider bite has damaged her circulatory system forever. Her left foot and leg are noticeably larger than the right, and she has been unable to work for more than a decade. But researchers aren't convinced that this is the work of the white-tailed spider alone.
Through studies of patients that have been bitten by different types of white-tailed spiders, when they're followed over time, it seems that it's very, very uncommon, rare, I would say, for venom from these spiders to actually cause skin blistering or ulceration itself. Certainly redness and itch, absolutely, do occur. Certainly it's distressing for a short time, but for most people, that's it.
There may be other factors to explain the horror some people face after a white-tailed spider bite.
And it's more likely to be due to another disease or an infection introduced by that particular spider rather than the spider's venom.
And there may be some people whose reaction to a white-tailed spider is much worse than others.
A logical possibility is that there is a certain vulnerable population and that there's only a certain type of spider.
There may yet be one of the dozens of varieties of white-tailed spider that causes these extreme reactions. Right now, there is no definitive answer.
The spiders that we have looked at only represent a small fraction of the potential out there. It wouldn't be a surprise if amongst all of those spiders something popped out that was of interest to the medical fraternity and may explain a certain proportion of the patients we see.
Helen Midgley remains convinced the white-tailed spider almost cost her her left foot and has set up a victim support group.
I have 1,093 victims registered that have all been bitten by whitetails. I have their case notes and it reads a horror story. It reads where they've lost limbs and threatened to commit suicide and gone ahead with it.
The victims all report that their ulcers can recur at the site of the bite and can even break out on the opposite limb.
Every summer, the swelling in my leg gets predominantly worse in the wintertime, and it will break out with superficial ulcers.
If you get bitten on the left side, 12 months later on the anniversary of your bite, look on your right side. And then the left side the next year, and so on. And it's a phenomenon that does exist, and the scientists, doctors, researchers can't explain why.
For now, the mystery remains, but the wounds are very real. Something is causing these terrible ulcers.
We can learn a lot more because we've barely begun to study Australian spiders.
10 ounces. Very cooperative. Yeah, baby.
Pain. It's our inbuilt injury protection meter. It's something we experience from the moment we're born till the day we die. But what if you couldn't feel pain at all, ever? That's what Ashlin Blocker has to deal with.
It basically means she cannot feel pain. She does not feel any type of pain. Her pain fibers didn't develop. So anything that, you and I that feel pain, she doesn't respond to.
Ashley, quick.
We'll get it in just a second. Can you throw it to me?
Ashlin has an extremely rare condition. It's so rare that it affects less than 1 in 7 million babies.
I think most people or physician in their whole life will never see someone like her.
She's beautiful. She's beautiful.
At birth, Ashlin was the perfect baby.
Looking back on it now, everyone asks us, well, did she cry when she was born?
She's so quiet. She's just checking things out.
She didn't. Nobody knew it at the time, but Ashlin could feel nothing to cry about. This condition, also known as CIPA, is nothing to celebrate.
Ashlin suffers from hereditary sensory and autonomic neuropathy type 4, which is the inability to perceive pain and the inability to sweat. Ashlin is lacking the pain fibers and pain receptors that we all have. And this is due to a genetic abnormality that she was born with.
From the earliest age, we learn about danger through experience. It often involves pain. Ashlin can't understand concepts like extreme heat. The sensation is linked to feeling pain. So why would she be scared of boiling water?
Be really careful, okay? All right? Be careful. It's hot.
Or equipment like a pressure cleaner her dad hired to clean up the yard. Ashlin wrapped her hand around the red-hot muffler.
And I immediately saying, okay, why is she looking at her hand? Why is she looking at her hand? And of course we turned it over and it was just all blistered from the palm to the tips of her fingers.
Ashlin felt nothing. That's the problem with feeling no pain. There are other dangers as well.
Like, for example, what happens if she gets appendicitis? How would we know? She would not say, my belly hurts. She would just maybe develop fevers. It's like pneumonias. How would we diagnose pneumonia in her clinically? We would be really, because she has probably much less symptoms than patients who can experience painful sensations.
Ashlin, come on, we got to check you over to make sure you haven't hurt yourself.
This disease is so rare that there are only 20 other sufferers in the United States, and currently there is no cure. So for now, it's a matter of taking each day as it comes and learning survival strategies.
She has to learn that she cannot trust just her being able to tolerate it. She will have to learn that she has to essentially have someone check the temperature of foods and beverages before she can use them.
The first clue to Ashlin's condition came when she was 6 months old. A seriously scratched eye should have had her in agony.
And everybody just got real quiet in the room, and we weren't quite understanding, why wasn't she feeling this, because anybody with even a small scratch in their eye would want to close, and they would be in pain, and she was just your happy-go-lucky little girl.
It was then they knew something was very different about this kid.
So they gave us a referral to go down to Nemours in Jacksonville, and we went to a geneticist, and he diagnosed her with congenital insensitivity to pain. And we have never heard of such a thing in our life. And, at that point, we didn't know how it was going to affect our lives as, a family and her as an individual.
Be careful.
As Ashlin grew, normal childhood milestones brought new problems. Everyone with babies knows about teething troubles. Hers were different.
You know, her teeth posed a big problem to her. Not knowing, she chewed on her lip, you know, in the middle of the night one time when she was younger. And I mean, I just walked into her room and her sheets were covered with blood. And my heart just sank and I just started crying. I mean, her bottom lip was so swollen and it just covered her top lip. It was just very, very frightening.
Now 6, Ashlin is doing just fine. She's learning that she's different from the other kids, and she's learning that she has to treat life with care.
Dr. Stott has told us, you know, there is no cure right now, but they know what gene has been affected. Maybe 5 or 10 years down the road, we don't know what will happen.
But while they wait for a cure, Ashlin's parents are hoping for something that no other parent would ever wish for their child.
Give anything for her to feel pain.
Absolutely anything.
Get one for myself. Now, do you have any other questions before we get started? No.
Passing through the pain barrier and beyond to the limits of human endurance.
So some people, yes, they do get used to the fact that they're going to suffer some discomfort and even pain.
Doug Mendez is no stranger to pain. His face is testimony to what he's already endured.
I just want to be able to take myself to the next place, you know?
All set? All right. Take our first deep, deep, deep breath in and out. All right, very good. Take our second deep, deep, deep breath in and hold that for a second. Out and pierce.
Good loving.
Having these huge steel hooks inserted through the skin on his knees is only the first step in Doug's quest to see how far he can go. And here is step 2.
Because once we get the tension on there, that's about the worst it's going to be.
Okay.
The rest is just you letting go.
Okay.
All right. We're going to have our eyes on everything. If you're afraid something's going to tear or anything, we're going to know before you.
Okay.
All right. So even if it feels like it's happening, we're going to be watching all that for you.
Okay.
All right. So just going to put a little more tension on there.
This is what devotees call a suspension.
Just let your knees. All right. I guess you're going up.
Yep.
All right.
All right, yeah. Oh, yeah. Good love.
All right.
That's intense. Oh. You can put your hands down.
As far as we know, this dates back to Native American rituals. So that's well before our time. That goes back to the Native American Sundance ritual, where they would pierce pine pegs through the chest and hang that way.
Doug is now fully suspended, his entire body weight being held by the hooks through his knees. But how can Doug endure what must be excruciating pain? We have nerves in every square inch of body designed to respond to pain. And when something painful happens, those nerves fire and send a message along the spinal cord to the brain. The brain responds by releasing chemicals called endorphins. They bind to the brain's pain receptors and blunt the painful sensations. But even endorphins have their limits. Researchers now believe the body actually contains a complex pain modulation system, of which endorphins are only one part. Turning this system on might just explain how people like Doug are able to endure an agonizing experience without any anesthetic drugs.
Part of it is that there's a genetically determined difference in the way the modulation system turns on when you have injury to tissue or injury to nerve. It's seen, of course, on the sporting field. Sporting people get injured. They might even have a fracture, fractured ribs, fractured finger, whatever. They keep playing and they don't appear to have much pain. And that's because this powerful system has been turned on.
You know, they put the hooks in, and it hurts, it's a piercing. You know, they pull you up, and it's a lot of stress, a lot of tension. You feel it all. And then you're up there, and after about 3 minutes, you're just completely blank. Everything comes back into you. It's all centered, your emotions, you feel everything. You don't really hear too much, you don't see too much. It's just everything comes together. It's amazing.
The pain-blocking chemicals seem to act in the same way as anesthetics or opiates. They block the brain's receptors that usually register negative emotions and pain.
The initial tough part of the pain traditionally subsides after the first couple minutes. At least for myself, it does. There's still pain throughout the entire suspension, but you become used to it or almost numb.
Like they're not kind of there.
That numbness is a result of the brain's pain modulation system switching on. Incredibly, some people are even able to prepare that pain-blocking mechanism in advance.
There's often quite a build-up to the actual ceremony. So the individual goes into a sort of meditative state, and this gradually turns on this anti-pain system. And by the time the painful event occurs, they have that system turned on to a very high degree. Walking on hot coals would be another example.
Craig Werner has been suspended by flesh hooks before, but today he's undergoing something very different. The so-called suicide suspension.
Which the reason it's called suicide is if you were to look from a distance, it would almost look like the person's hanging from a noose.
The pain from the beginning, it's really intense, kind of put a little bit of pressure on the hooks, and then I just decided that, you know what, let's just do it. And took a couple of steps forward, a couple steps back, and just, you know, like pulling the ripcord and boom. For myself, this particular time, being able to pull myself up was a big thing, so I was actually inflicting the pain really on myself. There's never a point at which I don't feel anything. I think it goes from an intense pain, an intense burning sensation as the skin is kind of pulled away from the subcutaneous tissue, and then it kind of dulls out as the endorphins of your body kind of kick in.
Nice.
Recent research has shown that the brain is actually flooded with chemicals at times of intense pain.
The endorphins were really just the first important pain chemicals that were discovered. Our problem now is that there are so many that we know about, at least 50. Which are the really important ones?
But not everyone can stand this sort of experience. Perhaps Craig and Doug are simply able to produce more of these pain-blocking substances.
It's quite likely because we know that there are these enormous differences in people's responses to different types of pain. So I'd say that's likely.
Do it, brother. It's one shot. Uno, dos, go. Yeah.
Those that practice suspension know that they can control their pain response, and that may be the attraction, gaining control over an automatic body response.
It's most certainly painful. However, you know, what my mind is going through at that point is far more important than what my body is going through.
Meditation, self-hypnosis can turn on that system. Some people are good at those things, some people are not good at all. Some people can't do them, just absolutely can't do them, unfortunately.
Ready to get those hooks out?
Let's do it.
All right.
Get them out.
And perhaps the most puzzling thing of all is that those who can do it just want to keep coming back for more.
Some people, you know, go bowling, you know what I mean? And that's the way they enjoy their life. For me, this is what I do, and I'm absolutely in love with it.